Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. My name is Brittany Hardiman, and I work at Western Sydney University here in Australia. And I'm also at the Youth Focal Point, not only for RCE Greater Western Sydney, but also for the Asia Pacific RCE region itself. Let me just my controls. I'd like to first acknowledge the lands on which I meet with you today and pay my respects to traditional owners, elders past and present, and any Aboriginal people joining us here today, as well as any other Indigenous people joining us from across the world. I'd also like to extend my thanks and recognise all the organisation that's gone into today's celebration for International Youth Day. Unfortunately, this is my climate reality. I live in Western Sydney at the foothills of the iconic Blue Mountains, which is about 60 kilometres from Sydney CBD. In the last 3 years, my community has experienced extreme weather events as a result of profound climate impacts. My suburb was labelled the hottest place on earth, with a daytime temperature of 47.3 in January 2018, and then when you couldn't think it'd get any hotter, again in 2020 when it reached 48.9. In 2019 to 2020, we had a summer of bushfires that created hazardous air qualities across Australia, displacing many people I know, work with and love, as well as many animals. This year, we saw heavy rains that quickly turned into severe floodings as riverbanks burst, destroying the surrounding lands and isolating many communities. These climate impacts and realities are not isolated issues, but are repeated across the globe for all of us as young people. Undoubtedly, today's youth face extraordinary global sustainability challenges: worsening modern conflict, increasing gaps in inequality, COVID, and climate change, just to name a few. And lots of these have brought a scary uncertainty for our future. You may have already seen or heard about the Intergovernment Panel on Climate Change report that was released just a few days ago, showing that our planet is very likely to warm by 1.5 degrees by early as 2030. Unfortunately, this is the reality that we have inherited, but it's up to us in the way in which we respond, and that will make all the difference. As a generation of young people, we are bombarded constantly by the message that we are the last generation to save the planet. But how? While these big global challenges may cause us to feel despair or denial, maybe both, maybe somewhere in between, it also presents us with an opportunity. Young people all over the world have begun to fight back on a scale never seen before. As a generation inspired by Greta, a global movement of young people demanding greater action for government for a fight on climate change has begun. 2019, a report of 185 countries with over 7.6 million participants held a week-long street action and peaceful demonstration across the globe, and I was fortunate enough to attend the one in Sydney. I truly believe that young people are powerful agents of change. No one is born as a leader. Instead, we choose to make ourselves personally responsible for the big issues that surround us. And I feel that this is what makes us powerful, and this is what gives us hope. To me, the best way we can mobilise action is to respond to these global challenges by connecting it to something we're passionate about. For me, that's supporting and empowering youth to take action. For you, it might be art, food, fashion, music, sports, education, technology, science, or anything really, and linking that to climate action or any sustainability issue that you're passionate about. This is not to say that our own individual personal actions like recycling more, saving water, saving power, riding to work or eating less meat aren't important and that they don't make a difference. But what we're trying to look at here today is finding your voice to become a champion for large-scale, meaningful impact in your community. The RCE Youth Challenge is my platform to mobilise my voice and my passion. In 2016, I had the privilege of being invited to attend the 2016 Global RCE Conference in Yogyakarta, Indonesia. Here, I met my dear colleague, Emmy, who, like me, is deeply passionate about youth empowerment. As two young women, we were both tired of old people telling us what we have to do. We were tired of being passive participants in programs, and instead we wanted to create a space to challenge us traditional roles of youth and give us a space and a platform to be active participants in our learning and in our future. After a year of planning, we began to work on delivering the RCE Global Youth Challenge, which we've called Youth for the Goals. The challenge supports and empowers young leaders to have a voice while gaining valuable experience and learning to be the drivers of change in their local communities and addressing the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Each year, we focus on a different set of SDG goals. In 2018, we worked on projects that focused on SDG 13 and 14. In 2019, we worked on projects that focused on SDG 1, 6, and 10. And in 2020, and again in 2021, due to the impacts of COVID, we're focusing our attention on SDG 11, 12, and 15. The challenge has now run for 4 years and has directly engaged 21,000 youth, 5,000 non-youth being parents, teachers, and community members, and indirectly hundreds of thousands of people through print, television, radio, and social media. Our 56 individual youth-led projects have run across 12 countries, representing 24 different RCEs, as well as a number of NGOs and international agencies. A total of 156 youth leaders have been involved in leading these sustainability projects in their communities at a grassroots level using peer-to-peer learning. Today, in line with our theme of our webinar, I want to focus on a few climate action projects that hopefully will inspire you. The first project, Learning from Indigenous Environmental Champions in Vanuatu, was an initiative where 10 Western Sydney communication and media students travelled to Vanuatu on a study abroad program. The students spent 4 weeks in a number of villages creating 2 short documentary films that focus on sustainable development and community-based adaptation to climate change to build long-term resilience that will benefit the future. You can find these documentaries on YouTube, and I'm happy to pop the links in the chat. The second project was a conservation camp supported by the Ministry of Environment and Forestry in Indonesia. Youth from junior high, as well as community groups, participated in a 2-day camp where they undertook workshops, field trips, and discussions on the issues and solutions around marine pollution, habitat conservation, and climate change. The volunteers planted 750 mangrove seedlings along the coastal area to reduce the risk of habitat degradation and erosion. The Tasmanian Youth Climate Leaders Conference was its first statewide conference that aims at igniting interest in the Sustainable Development Goals and action towards climate. High school students from all over Tasmania came together and connected with mentors to develop a 10-week program focusing on SDG Goal 13 or 14. Approximately 300 students participated in the program from 25 high schools in Tasmania and New Zealand. The students' projects that they came up with ranged from waste expos to multicultural gardens, banning single-use plastics, and carbon neutral audits and research, and engaged a further 2,400 students. 4 of these students went on to then participate in the COP25 in 2019. Youth for Environmental Sustainability was a project in Malaysia where youth were educated from both high schools and university about the importance of climate action via energy literacy. Awareness booths, posters, video competitions, climate change and energy efficient workshops were all used as a knowledge sharing platform to invoke action. Green schools and green communities run by a youth-led social enterprise called Teach for Green. Based in India, the program offers DIY environmental education classes for government schools. During the project, which has run for 3 years, primary and secondary students from local schools planted 4,100 trees, built 3,900 solar lamps, and distributed more than 2,000 seed balls to fill barren lands and open spaces within the community of Delhi as a climate mitigation and also an education program. Let's Learn Act Now, also out of India, aimed to reach young people and the community to educate them on sustainability and the Sustainable Development Goals at a very personal level, through community workshops, pledges, competitions, surveys, research, and more. The project had a huge reach across social media, engaging around 100,000 people. RCE Greater Portland has a college network made up of members of local colleges and universities. And this network has been advocating for divestment from fossil fuels, from their university investments and also their endowments. They've been advocating for change and been participating in writing of policies and sustainability documents for their universities. Lastly, RCE Penang celebrated World Wetland Day in February with a group of youth volunteers. The day focused on raising awareness and education on the importance and value of wetlands in Malaysia, wetland conservation, climate change. Youth-led activities included a planting and a river cleanup, recreation, and learning about the local biodiversity in the region. The project also successfully planted 220 mangrove seedlings with follow-up activities planned. As for 2021, well, the challenge is still going, and I'm really excited to see how youth may be tackling climate change in these retrospects. I hope that some of these examples have provided you with the inspiration on steps that you too could take to have a positive impact on your community and on our climate. Little things, big things, they all matter, but it's about having meaningful impact on your community. Now is the time to find your voice, to join the fight, to feel empowered, to advocate for the future you want, and to take action for sustainability together. Thank you.
Good afternoon to all of you. Here in Colombia is good night or good morning. Let me share my screen so I'll show you my presentation. Can you confirm that you are seeing it properly, please?
Yes, we can see it perfectly.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm going to start talking about my project. It is called Youth as Leaders in the Adoption of Sustainable Lifestyles. As I said, I work with RCE Bogota, Colombia, and with El Bosque University. So who are we? We are basically a movement promoted by young leaders from different universities, students, and graduates that are trained in sustainable lifestyles issues. We aim to spread a sustainability message to all of our communities here in Colombia, making visible initiatives committed to the environment, and also to create sustainable cities and communities. Our main goal is to promote the adoption of sustainable lifestyles to train informed and responsible consumers that with their decisions and daily actions can help reduce environmental impacts associated with our lifestyles to create a more sustainable cities. We know that these times are showing us all the impacts that we are generating in our planet. So we think that by empowering youth in acting about it, we can solve a lot of these issues. So why adopting sustainable lifestyles? According to the Cambridge Sustainability Commission, 72% of global greenhouse gas emissions are a result of their consumption behavior, the household consumption behavior. 15 gigatons of carbon are being saved by taking actions such as eating less meat or reducing air travel. These actions that are directly related to our lifestyles show us that we can, from our homes, attack these issues, tackle climate change, and change some behaviors that made us less sustainable. Also, there are different historic trends showed by United Nations about the projections that we can do if we don't act on climate change. For example, the increase in greenhouse gas emissions, the increase in agricultural land, the increase in global pasture land, the reduce of our forests and other natural habitats. But if we work together towards sustainability, we can change a lot about these issues. We can lower our global material extraction. We can decrease the greenhouse gas emissions. We can decrease the area of our agricultural land, making it more productive. We can also increase the area of forests and other natural habitats that now are being destroyed because of our actions. So this shows us that working towards sustainability is a work of all systems in our society, not only governments, not only companies, but also youth and also communities. So we are a group of 34 young leaders that work in this project. And what we want is to be multipliers of information that all our people here in Colombia, all our communities around us, begin to understand why they should have sustainable lifestyles and what can they do from their homes to contribute to tackle climate change. So we have worked with different allies, including UN Environment, with the project One Planet Live with Care. We are worked also with different embassies, such as the Swiss Embassy here in Colombia, the Ministry of Environment, and other different organizations that are helping us spread this message to all Colombia. So what we have done in the years 2020 and 2021 is creating a virtual community in our social networks. And we have done a lot of activities that allowed us to reach more people. We always said that the pandemic didn't stop us, but because the pandemic enabled us to communicate with more people around Colombia, not only here in Bogota, with different virtual events. So we developed 25 virtual events with more than 1,100 participants. We have new publications, water footprint, biodiversity, sustainable lifestyles. We publish everyday information in our social networks about this. We have our group of 34 young leaders. We have alliances with more than 50 sustainable brands here in Colombia that sell sustainable products and services. We have done different activities through our social networks, such as contests, workshops, conference, webinars like this one, around the sustainable lifestyles domains. And also we generated a set of workshops around sustainable lifestyles in alliance with these brands. What we learned with this project is that an informed consumer is a potential responsible consumer. But informing people is not enough. You have to motivate them to act. How? By showing people the negative and positive impacts of their actions. Social networks are a huge tool to inform people, especially youth. Giving the message in a funny, easy way, such as the social networks, generates more motivation. Involving youth in policymaking is fundamental. We can have a sustainable lifestyle without it being a sacrifice. And also, people don't realize the power they have as consumers to drive positive changes in their communities, in their realities, and also in their houses. So we have a saying in our project that is not what you say, but it is how you say it that can make people change and motivate them to act instead of making them feel bad or generating negative emotions. So here we have some of the pieces that we upload to our social networks. We use memes a lot, and that is what people really like. So we continue to work for sustainability. Here are our social networks. You can find us like Modo Acción Sostenible in Spanish. We also have a website. We also have a YouTube channel, and a Spotify. You can also find us, and Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you very much, and I'm open for your questions, and thank you for the invitation to RCE.
And climate change advocacy, Zambia. Zambia is a landlocked country. It has 8 neighbors, and the population of Zambia stands at 15 million. Our economy is predominantly based on exploitation of the country's natural resources, mostly copper and timber. And the exposure of the country to climate change affects these resources. So far, we have challenges of reduced water levels in the country's biggest reservoir, the Kariba Dam, which is the major supplier of the country's hydropower. Human health has also equally been adversely affected by climate change, thereby significantly affecting the economic, social, and environmental dimensions of national sustainable development. The youth population of Zambia is at 36% of the total population, and it is the largest youth population in the country's history. We, the Zambian youths, have been proactive in fighting climate change through advocacy and forming youth-led organizations through which we can raise our voices and be heard by the decision makers and just raise our concerns. There are a number of ways in which the youths in Zambia are involved in fighting climate change. One of I've outlined a few here. One of them is taking the front lines in fighting climate change. We believe as the Zambian youths that we are the leaders of now. It's not about tomorrow, because tomorrow never comes. We are not the leaders of the future. Our time to lead is now, and we know that we have to secure the future for the next generations. And if we don't do nothing now, we're going to have no words to give to the next generation. So we are taking the front lines, fighting climate change by forming youth groups. We are championing environmental messages through social media, radio platforms, and TV. Zambian youths are also innovators of environmentally sustainable systems. For example, we have youth groups that are producing eco charcoal. That's the charcoal that burns. Uh, 20%, and we're leading and being example of to reducing our footprints to the environment. We choose how we consume the goods. We choose what products to consume and what products not to consume, and we echo this advice to the general population. We have environmentally supportive innovations and entrepreneurships that are being run by the Zambian youths. This is an example of youths doing some tree planting, which is a part of the nature-based solutions to climate change. You can see here a seminar that was held by the youths, trying to sensitize and raise awareness on the importance of climate action. Here I have outlined the top 10 youth-led organizations who are doing various activities in Zambia. There are many more organizations in Zambia that are youth-led and have won awards doing climate action. We have the Youth Environmental Network. It's a network where youths in Zambia who have a passion for climate change advocacy, environmental advocacy, and conservation can subscribe to this network and volunteer to work in their communities under the brand of this network, just to raise awareness and be part of the change. The Agents of Change is a youth-led organization that has promoted the use of radio by youths. Even the younger school-going children have a voice to voice out their concerns on climate change. This platform gives them a chance to speak. We have the University of Zambia, Environmental Education Students Association. The University of Zambia is the highest learning institution in Zambia. It's a public institution. And it has a program called Environmental Education, and they are raising awareness in the communities and on campus and on TV, radio station, and countrywide. We have Passion for Greens, which is also about tree planting and fighting climate change using nature-based solutions. The Center for Environmental Justice is about advocating for environmental policies and making sure there is proper implementation of the environmental law in the country. The Global Climate Movement is also about responding to climate change in the country, and it's also youth-led. The Young Emerging Farmers Initiative is about farmers who are advocating for agroecology. How can we grow enough food using minimal land and water resources and without using chemicals? This is what the Young Emerging Farmers Initiative is all about. It's about demonstrating to the general public and the country at large, and indeed the decision makers, that farming can be done in small portions of land without wasting too much water and without using chemicals, and produce healthy and enough food. Then there's people's participation for sustainable interventions. It's also about dialoguing, sharing knowledge about climate action and how people can respond to different challenges. There's Lusaka Impact Hub, which acts like a host of have a say on climate change related issues. Then we also have Africa Direction in Zambia that is also youth-led and has some component of climate action in them. So just to conclude my very brief presentation, the Zambian youths have actually realized that there is need to secure the natural resources for the future generations. Being a landlocked country, we actually have access to a third of the water, fresh water in the whole Southern African region. We have the Zambia Speakers River, biggest man-made dam in parks that have loads of wildlife, and we still have forests that we need to protect. We have indigenous species that are highly on demand right now, and timber logging is also an issue. So we, the Zambian youths, know that we have to stand up and guard our natural resources jealously for the purpose and for the sole purpose of the future generations. We have the older generations right now, and there is this habit, or there is this language that the youths are the leaders of tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes. We all know that. We have to lead now, because most of the people that are in leadership positions right now, they do not care much, because they will not be there in the future to answer these questions of why did you let the rivers run dry? Why did you pollute the seas? And why don't we have trees? They will not be there to answer those questions. So we thought it's time to take over. It's time to lead. And we're not waiting for them to invite us to the decision-making table, because sometimes they become reluctant about that. So we are forming youth groups and registering them, making them formal, making our voices formal, so that when we speak, we can be heard. And we are leading change slowly in communities, and we are leading projects that are eventually attracting the attention of governments. For example, the Eco Charcoal project is growing big, and it's just started as a small project that is run by a small component of youths, but the government is taking interest in that. And there are so many other projects that the Zambian youths have initiated, and after knowing that we are determined and we are resilient, the government has shown some interest. So we are there and we're pushing, and we hope for a sustainable future. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I am Akane, a senior student at Okayama University in cooperation with CO2 SOS, affiliated to RCE Okayama. I'm very happy to see all of you today. Now let us begin. We CO2 SOS are working under the slogan, let's collaborate to spread awareness of issues surrounding global warming. In a nutshell, our activities are to provide various opportunities like CO2 measurement and data disclosure, eco-event and seminar research activities based on the IKE mindset. IKE means to be integrated. In this case, it is harmony with nature and harmony with people. Next, let's take a look at each of these opportunities. First, I will talk about CO2 measurement and data disclosure. There are 13 observation spots in Japan and 2 spots overseas, including those under preparation. The measurement devices are installed with the cooperation of individuals and organizations in Japan and abroad. and the data is acquired to disclosed via the internet. The results are made public at the local science museum and on our website. The results are also used in the eco event, which will be introduced next. And next, I will talk about the eco event. This event is held for local elementary and junior high school students, and it's led by university students. It consisted of 4 parts: a virtual science museum, a graph analysis, exploring the global warming mechanisms, and basic Earth. The purpose of this event is to promote understanding of global warming, which is difficult to realize by visualizing invisible things such as annual change in CO2 concentration and vegetation on the Earth as seen from space. It is also expected to stimulate children's ability to think scientifically through experiments and graph analysis. Some children became interested in research activities by experiences at the eco event. They analyzed the data obtained by our observation network of CO2 concentration from various viewpoints. Under the guidance of CO2 SOS, the research reports compiled by elementary and junior high school students won a prize 4 times at the research contest hosted by the University of Tsukuba. We use the result of research to improve the materials of environmental learning. Now I would like to show you a video that summarizes these activities. Please take a look.
Students. So let's think about what can be the major factors of global warming.
もう、光は波なんですね。で、その波が長いところから短いところまで、これが変わると何が変わるか。
All 3 engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff. The final liftoff of Atlantis. Shoulders of the space shuttle. America will continue the dream.
Thank you. And finally, I summarize this event from SDG's point of view. We are working on our project with what should we do to continue EST in a community in the future. For elementary and junior high school students, we made them touch science and information technology widely, focusing on the global warming issue from the viewpoint of developing ideas that they could be the future leaders of EST. In the SDGs, these contribute to target 4.7 and 13.3. For university students, from the viewpoint of cultivating leaders of EST that have immediate capabilities, we have operated projects so that they can be involved in planning and managing them. In addition, I asked for a lecture to a senior staff of the Japan Agency of Marine Earth Science and Technology. Through this, we have promoted partnerships and contributed to target 17.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Hello, my name is Laura from Denmark, and right now I'm at my Carpentry school outside Copenhagen. I hope the noise from the other classrooms don't abrupt too much. I have a background as a bachelor's in development studies and human geography, but started as an apprentice carpenter 4 years ago. In addition to my apprenticeship, I'm a part of a cooperative where we offer building courses for transgendered, non-binaries, and women. I wanted to be a carpenter because I like to work with my hands, and I love the independence of being able to build and repair. On top of being empowered to build, being a carpenter gives me the opportunity to act on climate matters. In Denmark, the construction industry accounts for 30% of CO2 emissions. And we mainly use concrete, steel, glass, and stone wool insulation to build. And these materials cause high emissions because they require a lot in production and are heavy to transport. However, luckily we have alternatives so we can build more sustainable. When building with wood, you can lower CO2 emissions because wood obtains CO2 when it's growing. So if we would use timber in our construction and insulation, we could actually bring down the CO2 emissions with up to 150%. Even though this seems like a no-brainer, the conversion is really slow. This is both because the industry is really big and holds a lot of jobs and profits, and the building regulation that we build out from, it's made based on these conventional materials. And last, the carpenters, they don't really have the knowledge to work with sustainable materials and building methods. As an apprentice, we attend school in about 4 years. Most of our education is based in a company, and then we have 5 school stays in between. And in school, we learn the theory and practice about building, but traditionally there has not been a sustainable focus in our schools. However, to spread the knowledge of sustainable building materials, my school has initiated this project where we develop building methods that live up to regulations, but are also climate friendly. And the result I'm standing next to, and I would like to show you the materials we've been working with. So first of all, we built with a timber frame in our construction to replace concrete and steel. And actually, it's also possible to build really tall buildings with a cross-laminated timber. I think today the record of a building is around 50 meters. So we also cover our construction with these wood fiber plates. In Denmark, we have harsh weather conditions, so this protects the construction for wind. And then in Denmark, we use a lot of insulation. We do that to reduce the energy we use when heating our houses. And we actually put in around 300 millimeters of insulation in our walls and 400 millimeters in our roof. But the stone wool insulation that we mainly use is a very complex production that use a lot of CO2 emissions. To replace this, there is an alternative, and that's wood fiber insulation. I have some here. Unfortunately, you can't really feel the texture, but it's like maculated wood. And this contains CO2, so we don't use as many emissions. And furthermore, it can transport moisture, so the moisture doesn't get trapped into the construction. And the shift towards sustainable building methods gives new skills to apprentice carpenters, so we can choose environmentally friendly solutions when we're designing and building houses. And we can, furthermore, we can articulate the importance to our clients and our producers and push the industry in a better direction. I think the project has also influenced the cultural aspects. So today, the construction industry is motivated by cost benefit, and there's a lot of time pressure, which is not always a very nice environment to work in. However, when you include these climate issues and our agency to improve the situation by using sustainable methods, we alter the cultural narrative so it becomes more positive and inclusive. And I think that a more climate-friendly environment will also lead to a more diverse and solidary workforce. As we see around the world, it is the youth who are calling for climate justice. And again, this project is a proof that it's a young, newly educated, who are front runners in this development. So now we would like to invite the legislators and companies to join us. Thank you very much.